Ladies and gentlemen, I think you should begin the meeting. I said we were going to start at 9. We want to be out of here, sorry, at 7. We want to be out of here at 9. So we will start. Before I ask the four candidates to come up to the front, I'd like to go through how we're arranged the meeting. My name is John Sewell, and I'll be moderating the discussion. Four sponsoring groups to the meeting. The Regal Heights Village BIA, the Regal Heights Residents Association, the Northcliffe Village Residents Association, and the Davenport Neighborhood Association. This microphone is not working, is it?
Aaron, can you turn off 8? 8.
Check.
Thank you. So as I've indicated, we have four associates.
Turn it up.
Check 1.
So we have four sponsoring organizations, and I'd like to go through them again because it's important to people who put the energy and money into making this happen. The Regal Heights Village BIA, the Regal Heights Residents Association, the Northcliffe Village Residents Association, and the Davenport Neighborhoods Association. Here's the way the meeting is going, and these ideas about the procedures for the meeting have all been given to the candidates yesterday morning. Each of the four invited candidates will be given 10 minutes to provide a vision of the city from their point of view. And we've asked them to include in that vision words touching on how the candidate will build consensus both on and off City Council, the place of neighborhoods in a big city, and the place of Toronto in the Greater Toronto Area. So we've asked them to include some thoughts about those three subjects, as well as more general discussion. After that happens, the candidates will then be asked 3 questions, each providing an answer of about 90 seconds. And these questions have been developed by these four organizations, and I will read them later. The 3 of them all relate to things around this area with a broad citywide significance. And the candidates have all been provided with these questions, so they're prepared. After that happens, then we might have a bit of a feedback session between the candidates, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move on to questions from the audience. And just to again repeat how we're planning on doing that, rather than have a rush for microphones, we've asked people who wish to ask the question to put their name on a piece of paper, and in this box or in that box, we will then draw names for questions. And hopefully we'll have enough time that many questions can be posed and answered. And we're going to ask people to keep their question to under 60 seconds. And we don't want statements, we want questions. And so we're hoping that by about 8:45, we're going to be in a position where we can ask the candidates to give a few closing words. So in fact, this session can end by 9 o'clock. So here are the rules, that's how we begin. And I ask the four candidates we've invited to come up here. And we have a speaking order that has been determined by a draw. We'll ask Harry Wolkine. Each candidate has 10 minutes. At the 9-minute mark, somebody's going to hold up a piece of yellow cardboard, 10-minute mark, the red cardboard, and I'll haul them down. We're starting with Harry Bolton. I can always go here. Okay, great. You want to speak there? I can. If you'd like to speak, for the next speech.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Regal. Many of you do not know who I am yet, but many of you do. I went from somebody who signed up for mayor on March 17th. Nobody knew who I was. I went from people calling me a fringe candidate to a long shot candidate, and now I'm very, very pleased to be polling fourth in the mayoral race, and it's all on the strength of my ideas and my vision of the city. So let's get right to that. Thank you. I signed up to run for mayor for one very simple reason. I was fed up with what I was seeing. And like so many of you who are fed up with the problems in our city that we can all identify, but the solutions are not readily forthcoming, I decided to put a plan together that is very, very different than the three people who are on this stage tonight. And let me tell you what that is. I am the one candidate, and I say this very openly, and I assure you it doesn't win me a popularity contest. I talk about raising taxes. I am open about it. I am firm about it, because I believe that we're a city worth investing in. This city does not have a spending problem. We are not riding the gravy train. We have a revenue problem. And I know this comes as a surprise in a climate where we all hear that we're overtaxed, which I believe is a fundamental failure of leadership to tell you that for 50 cents a day, 50 cents a day, we can make huge strides without waiting for the province and without waiting for Ottawa to take our city into our own hands and make the kind of changes that you all know that we need now. Not 4 years from now, not 12 years from now, today. We must have leaders that are about more than photo ops. We must have leaders that tell you the truth about the challenges that we face. Now, can we do everything? No, of course not. But I'm the one candidate who nobody questions my plan to invest, because it's clear. There's no guesswork. There's no scheme. There's no plan that makes you roll your eyes. Now, the knee-jerk reaction may be, how can I vote for a person who says we might have to look at raising our taxes a little bit? Well, I think all of you know in this room, if we're really being honest with each other, that we cannot be cheap with our amazing city. Now, name recognition. I can't match that. Now, that's changing in the last few weeks. But name recognition does not equal talent. It does not equal the achievement of results. And you, every one of you, would not be here tonight if this city was working as you think it should. You would not be here. So if it's experience that's the only thing that matters, I ask you, maybe as you're listening tonight, maybe when you go home, ask yourself, how did we get here? And how did we get here? It's time for a rethink. It's time for a reset. Now, I know, and many of you are thinking, that you have to strategically vote, because this city has become about anybody but Ford. I respectfully say to all of you that we need to hit the reset button. We need to have a real rethink, a real serious rethink about what do we want our city to look like for the next 4 to 8 years. And how do we do that? We stop saying no to everything. We simply stop saying no. We start saying yes to transit. We start saying yes to affordable housing. We say yes to parks and green space. And we start focusing on our quality of life. Now, we're in a part of the city where many of us are very lucky to have a good standard of life. But there are parts of the city that have been left behind and ignored. And so much of what I'm talking about is about parts of the city that need government. Now, you will hear philosophically tonight that government is bad or that government is evil. I do not believe that. The role of government in our society is crucially important. I have watched promises be made and promises not be kept. I have watched very, very talented politicians fail to deliver meaningful change. Is that good enough for you? I don't think you would have taken the time to come here tonight, or if you're watching this at home. If you were satisfied, you would not be watching this tonight. It is extremely, extremely important that when you choose who you vote for, that you ask yourself one simple question. Why do we have a government that constantly trips over dollars to pick up dimes? This is a city that if we made some smart investments, we would make each other proud, and we would treat this city like the jewel that it is. That's what my platform is grounded on, and that's why I want to be mayor of this great city. Now, it's already expensive to live in this city. There's no doubt about it. But for 50 cents a day in an already expensive city, we start making the changes that so many of you know we need. And many of you in this room need us to act now. I don't know if anybody ever watched the cartoon with the Roadrunner and Coyote, where the coyote hangs at the end of the cliff and just hangs for an extra second until he plummets down. We can't have that happen on October 28th. We can't afford for that to happen on October 28th when we realize that we've elected somebody who isn't willing to invest in this city. So let me tell you very, very quickly what my priorities would be from day one. We have to do something about our gridlock in this city. We have to. And you're going to hear, and I guarantee it, you're going to hear that we have to wait for the provincial and federal governments to step up and give us money. While that may be partly true, we cannot wait for that to happen. We need to make our roads clear. We have to uncongest our arteries. And how do we do that? And I appreciate it may not be on the top of everybody's mind, but we have to look at congestion fees and tolls on people using the DVP and Gardner to clear the way. And I'll make this very, very clear. There is a person tonight here on this stage who, as a private citizen, understood the need to do that. But when you run for office, there are certain things that don't sound as popular. But leaders lead from the front. They lay it out for people. It's not just your job to be responsible. It's my job to be responsible to tell you about the important challenges we face. We have to deal with our mentally ill in our city in a much more compassionate way. We have to guarantee that we can have new ideas at City Hall by way of term limits. We have to ensure every single day that Toronto shows a compassion to the people that have left behind, where we understand the simplicity of yes. We have to look at the waterfront, and I appreciate we're not that far from the waterfront. I put out a proposal for the Green Ribbon, a 7-kilometer urban park that would go over the existing Gardner. And I would ask my colleagues on the stage to join me in a project that would transform Toronto forever. We can't just have the CN Tower being the landmark for the last 30, 40 years. I am against jets at the waterfront. I lay it out very, very clearly. We need to make our city much more accessible and much more seniors friendly. When you do that, you make the city livable for all. We cannot wait for something. Does that mean 1 minute? Okay. Sorry, that's 1 minute? Okay, I couldn't see you over there. So if you'd like me to just wrap up very quickly, I'll do it. Sure. There's a lot riding on this election, and you're going to hear discussion tonight, and you've been hearing it since January, where something doesn't sit right about people's reluctance to invest in our city. Let's say yes to investing in Toronto.
Our next speaker is Olivia Chow.
I'm much shorter, yes. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? Good. Okay, wait a second. How are you tonight? Good. The Regal Heights Village BIA, the Rest Association, the Northcliffe Village Rest Association, Davenport Neighborhood Association, and all of you. You came out tonight because you love your neighborhood, your street, and your city. And you know that when we come together and work together, we can create a much better city, a much better neighborhood. That's why you're out here tonight. And you're taking the time because you're passionate about your neighborhood. And that's why I'm running for being your mayor. Because I love this city. I left my job in Ottawa as a member of Parliament because there's so much we can do together. I'm not the fastest talker, the loudest talker up here. In fact, I talk with an accent, like a lot of people in this city. But I'm different. This campaign reminded me of an old Sesame song, street songs and new street songs. Some of you heard me, one of these days I'll sing it. And it is, you know which one I'm talking about, those of you that were here last night? That one of these things is not like the others. I am not quite like the folks on the stage. I have one view of this city and they have another. I believe that we need to invest in our children because they are our precious future. I believe that we have to support our families better because it's just not right when we have in this beautiful city of ours that almost 1 out of 3 kids live in poverty. Which means that some of them are going to bed hungry. That's just not right. Because we are good people in this city. We're in a good city. And we believe we can share with each other. We're generous people. So I said I would make sure there is at least 3,000 new childcare spaces in the city. So parents won't have to wait so long. And what about kids going to school hungry? Well, at least they have a good meal in school. So 36,000 kids should have good food in school. So they can learn. So they can learn. And after school activities, that's important because they can then grow up smart and strong and stay out of trouble. So at least 40 neighborhoods, some in your area, should have after-school activities for our kids. And I think that's something that's worth investing for. And then there is this whole question about public transit. Now, we all have a map, and we'll all see maps. We all have colorful maps. My maps, well, you know, maybe it's too far away. My map, actually, one thing that is not, that has a little sign in here is that we need to invest more bus services now, because it's not right when a bus comes by and it's packed and you can't get on, you're late at work. It's just not right. We should not leave people behind. So let's increase bus services by at least 10% right now, and we can do it. Second, TTC said that their top priority is building that downtown subway relief line. Let's get it done. Let's start it right now. It'll take 12 to 13 years to get it built. Let's start that right now and build that subway so that the young subway line and the Danforth subway line won't be so packed that maybe we can get a seat there sometimes occasionally. And lastly, that there are 3 light rapid transit lines. Let's get them built. Now, they're not streetcar lines. They are extra lanes so that if the street is originally 4 lanes, let's make sure that we build 6 lanes so that those LRTs have its own lanes so the car drivers won't be blocked. And let's get that going so that we can improve public transit right now, and then those LRTs can be done by 2020 in 5 years. So we have something right now, we have something in 5 years and something in 12 years. And we should have a very, very good transit plan. And let's get people moving right now, because we cannot wait. Lastly, we all know that there are young people that cannot find a job. 1 out of 5 young people can't find a job. Let us make sure we create jobs for young people. 5,000 jobs. We can do it. We can do it by asking the businesses that are doing business with the City of Toronto, big contracts, to sign a community benefit agreement so that they can create jobs while they are using our tax dollars, building new housing or building better roads. We can create at least 5,000 jobs, providing young people with hope and a sense of future, and we can do that right now by getting the companies and leveraging the city money that we are already investing in so we can create jobs for young people. Lastly, we can talk about the importance of working together, but the key thing is to make sure that we have a vibrant businesses, the BIAs, the local businesses, and the use of park. You know what that takes? That takes experience. And I have been a city councilor for 14 years. I've been a school trustee. When I saw that low-income seniors and children don't have dental program, I said, let's change that. So right now, low-income seniors and children get free dental care. And that's something that we've done together. It's experience that counts. And then I know that a lot of seniors and a lot of people that cannot speak English, when they call 911, they cannot connect with the operator. When I heard about that problem, I said to the police service board that we need to change that. So now, you can, hopefully you never have to call 911, but when you do need to, if you're a friend that cannot speak English, 911 now speaks 140 languages. So that's important. So no matter what language you speak, if you really need help, you can get the help. That's important. And we know that the BIA has lots of things that wants to happen. They need lower tax rates. They need to have better, faster improvement, the public improvement. They need to make sure that the empty storefronts, that when they get these tax rebate, there's a condition attached to it. There are a lot of things that BIA need. There are a lot of things that the local residents need. But what you need is a city council and especially a mayor that understand your experience, that know how to cut through red tape, that know that we have to put people first. And most important, that when we say that we want better public service, we have to invest in it. Because when someone tells you that they're going to give you something for nothing, it's probably too good to be true, right? So if it's too good to be true, it probably is not correct. So I think Mr. Tory and Mr. Ford needs to be honest and start being honest with all of us and say that if we need better public transit, if we need better public services, we must invest in it now. You can't say that the money was sometime from somewhere. So let's work together. Let's create a better city, a more caring, a more fair city. Let's do that right now. Thank you for coming out tonight.
The next speaker is John Hart.
Well, former Mayor Sewell and the fellow candidates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you to the associations that invited us here tonight, and thank you all very much for the keen interest that you're showing in our city. And the fact is that our city is fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous, and that's thanks to the courage and the foresight of leaders that have gone before, leaders in the community, leaders at City Hall and elsewhere. And they've created a city which is at one and the same time, it's dynamic, it's diverse, and it's also very livable and very humane. But I think the challenge for us, and this is confirmed, by the way, by many of the rankings, many of the objective rankings that are put together around the world, where they rank Toronto in the very top tier of cities. And we're not the biggest, and we're not the oldest, but we rank in the top tier, and I think one of the big issues in this election is how we keep this city moving forward, going from really good to really great. I strongly believe that the almost constant instability that we've seen, the division, the chaos we've seen at Toronto City Hall these past few years has been sapping our strength. It's been diminishing our ability to go from good to great. The division has dramatically slowed down what we could have done and what we should have done on traffic, for example. The fact is that traffic across the city and right here in these neighborhoods is worse than ever. But think what could have been done. Think what could have been done. The division has slowed down progress on transit. The current administration, in fact, reduced funding for the TTC and generally created mayhem in this area. Ask yourself if the service on the Dufferin bus, for example, is better or worse after the past 4 years. Do people still wait 12 minutes for a bus or a streetcar, wait 12 minutes for a bus or streetcar in the cold, only to find that not one, but three arrive all at the same time? The division has also done significant damage to our ability to deal effectively with unemployment. There are thousands and thousands of people today in Toronto who are without jobs, including tens of thousands of young people. And I would argue that the distractions and the divisions of the past 4 years have meant that we were without a chief salesperson for this city, because I think that's one of the fundamental responsibilities of the mayor, is to go and sell this city and get these jobs. Think of what we could have done on jobs. And the division has meant that we really didn't address issues of accountability. Ask yourself, in fact, have you been reading just as many stories over the past few years about huge projects going over budget, like the Union Station project and the Nathan Phillips Square upgrade? Ask yourself why you keep reading stories like the one we saw last week, where sidewalks not too far from here on Dundas West were ripped up more than once at your expense in a very short period of time, simply because people at City Hall didn't bother to talk to each other. That simply can't go on. Nobody thinks government is evil. Nobody thinks that. But at the same time, it drives people crazy. I expect you'll agree with this. It drives people crazy to see their money wasted in that manner. Those are the some examples of the price that I believe has been paid for the division and the distraction of the past 4 years. It shows itself in poor bus and streetcar service, horrific traffic, people still without jobs, and money still being wasted, your money. But it can ultimately be traced back, for starters, to a failure on the part of the current administration to get along with the City Council. That is a key element here. Those days of the City Council not getting along with each other must come to an end, as must the days when we pit the downtown versus the suburbs. We are one Toronto. We've been one Toronto for a long time. That kind of routine has to go. We are one city, and investments in building up one part of Toronto will benefit the entire city and all of the people who live here. And that healing, that coming together, it will start with the coming together of the council under leadership which respects all of them, understands they are all elected by the people across the city, they all have their job to do, that leadership that listens to all of them, works with all of them as part of the daily consensus building that is and always has been the City Council. Think about this for a moment. Sure, you saw debates happening at City Hall when other mayors were in office, but they got things done. There wasn't the relative non-stop chaos that you've seen over the last 4 years because the men and women who served as mayor in those preceding times acted like leaders. They brought people together, they worked with the City Council to get things done. And I do believe it starts at the top. You know yourselves that if somebody tries to bully you into taking a certain position, you have quite a different reaction than when someone bothers to take the time to sit down and listen to you and discuss the issue with you and try and work it out together. If you want to look for a real consensus, simply look at all the 38-2 votes that have taken place at the City Council in the last number of years. Every other member of council except the two people who happen to be named forward, when in fact the board should have been getting results in 38-2 or 45-0 votes on transit, on jobs, on building a positive a consensus in favor of all the things that need to be done in the city. I am committing to getting Smart Track built in 7 years versus the 17 years we now hear from both Ms. Chow and Mr. Ford. They would have you wait in a situation which I believe is terribly urgent in this city when it comes to traffic and transit shortfalls that are keeping people from their families, that are keeping people from their work, that are just generally bad for the city. And I think we should have been building a subway stop a year for the last 22 years, but we didn't do that. And now I think it's time with Smart Track to add 22 stations in 7 years, a very major, significant upgrade to our transit, which is going to, I think, address the frustration with the traffic and transit chaos that I know many of you feel and that has become worse in the last 4 years, not better. I'm committing myself to be the most effective salesperson this city has ever seen when it comes to attracting jobs and investment to the city and really understanding what it's going to take to get those jobs here and to encourage, at the same time, these small and medium-sized businesses that are already here, because they need to have a more business-friendly environment to make sure we get things done. And we'll talk about that later tonight. I'm going to personally involve myself in things like proper coordination of road construction, so they don't tear up all of the roads at the same time in a given area, or close the Gardner Expressway down on a weekend when we had 2 baseball games, a hockey game, and a soccer game, all on that weekend, 100,000 people trying to get downtown, and that's the weekend they chose to do the routine maintenance. I'm going to work